Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of City Skylines Pittsburgh. In today's episode, I'll be covering the neighborhood of East Liberty, located in a valley between the eastern hills of the city. I'll be discussing the history of this neighborhood over time and how it changed to become a commercial hub for the eastern suburbs. I'll also be covering the MLK East Busway, which effectively connects this neighborhood to downtown Pittsburgh via some express bus lanes, also known as Bus Rapid Transit or BRT. So sit back and I hope you enjoy the build of this really dense commercial district. To begin today's build, I'm focusing on the big box commercial stores, condos, and apartments that surround the busway area in the center of East Liberty. These recent additions to the neighborhood have really allowed for the area to thrive as a commercial hub, with the busway connecting to various eastern neighborhoods and to downtown. You'll also notice that there's an abundance of parking in this area. As you'll see, I start to detail this area a bit further and complete the underground garages that fill out this block underneath the road. This station, known as East Liberty Station, was recently renovated to try to improve its functionality and connectivity with the neighborhood, and that was all part of a 6-acre and $90 million investment plan to strengthen the East Liberty neighborhood as a transit-oriented development. I'll have a lot more to talk about the busway and this neighborhood in general later in the video. For now, here's some footage of me just creating the initial design and the outline of this station. I use some pedestrian paths from clues, and then I use intersection marking tool to detail out the side street above the station that is elevated above the garages. And I use intersection marking tool just to add the trees and small details up above. This is going to be the main focal point of this neighborhood, so while I'm not doing much detailing work now, I will be coming back later in the video to really focus in on this area and try to make it as similar to real life as I can within the constraints of the game. And with that said, I really don't have too much else to talk about for this portion of the video, other than I'm really thankful for the powerful tools that are available in CS1 to allow me to recreate this area. But like I said earlier in the video, I will be back later in this episode to talk more about the history of this neighborhood and the bus rapid transit connection that has allowed it to thrive in these recent years. For now, I hope you enjoy this build time-lapse of this detailed station that I'm building. As I continue to work on the East Busway and begin to start really detailing out East Liberty Station, the focal point of today's build, I just want to take a moment to discuss some of the history of this bus rapid transit corridor and how it came to be in the first place. And to do that, first we really need to go back to the 1840s, back when the Pennsylvania Railroad was still being built. Planners were seeking a connection from the city of Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, and that connection brought the railway directly through the neighborhood of East Liberty. Prior to the 1850s, East Liberty developed largely independently from the city of Pittsburgh as a small farming town. But when the Pennsylvania Railroad inaugurated the East Liberty train station in 1851, it also established a crucial connection between the neighborhood and the city, running 26 trains shuttling people to and from downtown. This link became pivotal for East Liberty's growth, coinciding with Pittsburgh emerging as an industrial hub between the end of the Civil War and World War I. Ridership of the trains, however, drastically declined after World War II. In the 1960s, the Port Authority of Pittsburgh, now known as Pittsburgh Regional Transit or PRT, purchased the Pittsburgh Railways Company, and this purchase ultimately allowed for the city to complete the conversion of what was once this former railway line into what's now known as the MLK East Busway. The railway was created in the valleys and around the hills of Pittsburgh to connect to the downtown of the city. This made it an ideal corridor for bringing mass transit to serve the Eastern Hills suburbs. Originally, the bus expressway connected downtown to the neighborhood of Edgewood in the East Hills. The busway was later extended further into the East Hills in 2003 when the Swissvale stop was opened. There are now currently 14 bus lines that travel on the MLK East Busway, including many flyer buses, with many operating on the weekdays and only during peak hours. In fact, the P1 East Busway line is the only bus line that has daily service, including weekends. And the P1 bus line travels the entire 9.1 mile length of the East Busway, serving all 10 stations. This P1 line is also an extremely popular bus line, and it leads the city in ridership numbers. The MLK East Busway serves as a vital public transit link for the city, and it shows how bus rapid transit can be an effective solution for cities. Along with buses, emergency vehicles can often be seen utilizing the route to get around the city quicker. But because the expressway limits all other vehicle traffic, the buses are able to quickly and efficiently cover a lot of ground while moving a great amount of people. This area that I'm now beginning to work on is a multi-story development alongside the busway, which actually features 3 different levels of parking and some commercial spaces like restaurants and retail stores on the various levels as well. This was actually one of the most difficult builds of the episode to complete as well, because it involves squeezing a lot of different networks together in a tight area, or even on top of each other in some cases, which the game doesn't like to do very easily. These parking lot roads, however, ended up being the best solution for what I was trying to build, and then I come back later just to detail everything out with some retaining walls and fences, as well as some pillar props just to give the structure a bit more structure. In a few moments, I'll be showing off some footage I grabbed from my visit to this area in the city, just showing off some of the buses traveling on the busway, as well as a cargo train I saw, keeping in mind that the railway next to the busway is still an active cargo line moving goods throughout the city of Pittsburgh. I want to give a big thank you and shout out to Jorgonix on Reddit, who actually reminded me that IMT, or intersection marking tool, works on more than just roads. I decided to take their advice and use intersection marking tool to detail this pedestrian bridge out, and while the real life doesn't have steps like this, I thought it looked pretty cool, so I decided to keep the vanilla steps like this. And just added some bushes to each side to kind of detail the rest of it. And then I came back again with intersection marking tool and added these yellow sides of the bridge like you have in real life. This mod is a really powerful tool now to allow you to actually detail and customize your cities to your liking. Now, I'm heading over to work on the construction site seen on Shady Avenue, just south of the East Liberty BRT station. This large construction site is a development that's now in progress, which is promising to bring some new high-density residential housing to the neighborhood. This lot was once called Shady Hill Plaza, and its main commercial tenant used to be a Giant Eagle grocery store. But in 2019, the Giant Eagle Real Estate parent company announced the demolition of this Shady Hill Plaza, which was to be replaced with an apartment complex with 15% of the units being affordable housing. Despite original opposition from the neighborhood and some consolations made to the original design, the development so far has been allowed to continue. The developer aims to reduce the impact of the 600-spot surface parking lot that used to exist in the lot, and plans to reconnect the city fabric by introducing a 400-space parking garage instead. This should allow for sufficient parking for the new mixed-use development, which aims to take the place of this construction site sometime in late 2024. Since the appropriate considerations were made for affordable housing units, replacing the grocery store and pharmacy during the construction period, as well as reconnecting the city grid, I have to say that I think that this is overall a net benefit and a positive contribution to the neighborhood. I can only see this being a benefit to the area, and I really look forward to seeing some more housing units being built where people really want to live. East Liberty Presbyterian Church, sometimes also referred to as the Cathedral of Hope in East Liberty, is the tallest building in the neighborhood and also the most recognizable landmark in the area. At roughly 30 stories tall, the cathedral towers over the rest of the East Liberty neighborhood, and it was built in 1935, entirely funded by the Mellon family of Pittsburgh. For this build, I knew I really wanted to try to make something special here, since this is really the centerpiece of the entire neighborhood. And for the asset, I decided to go with a Church of St. Ambrose, and I think this works really well here. With a little bit of effort from PO, of course, I was able to completely transform this church into what's seen in East Liberty here with this Presbyterian cathedral. The cathedral in real life has this Gothic design, and it features various different halls going in all sorts of directions, so it took quite a few of these assets to recreate it in the game. I probably used 7 or 8 of these cathedral assets to create the church here, but I think the end result ended up being worth it because it looks really close to the real life version. As I continue to build out the rest of the East Liberty neighborhood, I wanted to take a quick moment to discuss the history and the changes this neighborhood has seen over time to become what it is today. You'll see I'm about to be placing down the new offices for the newly established headquarters for the Duolingo Corporation, and I think this is actually the perfect time to really discuss the transformation that this neighborhood saw over time, because it really has this rich and interesting history to it that is far different from the modern commercial center that you'll see in the city today. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, East Liberty was initially founded as a farming area in the eastern hills of Pittsburgh, as it was a suitable area for growing crops and grazing animals due to the flat terrain found in the neighborhood. 2 farmers owned much of the land in the area, and their names, Negley and Weinbittle, can be found today on some of the street names when passing through these neighborhoods. As Pittsburgh's population started to surge in the pre-war era due to the flourishing iron and steel industries, East Liberty mirrored this expansion, with its population soaring from under 1,000 in 1850 to over 46,000 by 1910. The neighborhood acted as a first-ring residential suburb for the city of Pittsburgh, and attracted elite families like the Mellons seeking refuge from the city's industrial pollution. By the turn of the century, the neighborhood stood as one of America's wealthiest suburbs, boasting mansions of various affluent industrialists. The neighborhood was not this exclusive, elite enclave, however, as the East Liberty train station drew European immigrants and African Americans from southern states as part of the Great Migration, enticed by Pittsburgh's industrial opportunities. This multicultural composition persisted until after the Second World War, shaping East Liberty into a vibrant community with Italian, Anglo-American, German, African American, Jewish, Polish, Greek, and Irish residents. However, in the mid-20th century, East Liberty faced a tumultuous decline due to the discriminatory government policies known as redlining. The 1937 redlining maps etched the neighborhood with labels like obsolete and highlighted the presence of minority homeowners and those on relief, which was a form of welfare created alongside the New Deal following the Great Depression in the 1930s. This redlining constrained access to lending and mortgages for home purchases or renovations, and led to increased segregation in the area. As mortgages are the typical means for real estate acquisition, the refusal of banks to lend for properties in redline zones created a hurdle for potential buyers. resulting in an orchestrated decline in demand and property values in the area. The absence of capital for necessary repairs and renovations further led to the gradual deterioration and decline of poorly maintained homes. In the early 1960s, urban renewal aimed to address this newly created blight through the process of demolition. The same areas that were marked obsolete by the redlining maps in 1937 were now singled out and subsequently razed, exasperating the issue further. This initiative of urban renewal bulldozed entire segments of the community, disrupting its vibrant commercial center, destroying the neighborhood fabric, and implementing housing projects that proved to be ineffective in fostering a thriving economy in the area. However, hope began to re-emerge for this neighborhood in the 1980s with the inception of the East Liberty Development Incorporation, or ELDI, a nonprofit dedicated to revitalizing the area of East Liberty. Investment and focused efforts from the East Liberty Development Incorporation have seen the area transformed into a retail core for the city in the last few decades. Big box retailers like Home Depot and grocery giants like Whole Foods saw opportunities in once abandoned lots near Center Avenue and the site of a failed Sears, alongside being incentivized through something called tax increment financing, which are basically just public subsidies for redevelopment. These retailers were further supported by the MLK East Busway success, which connects the neighborhood to downtown through the express bus lanes. Along with being surrounded by the affluent neighborhoods of Shady Side, Highland Park, and Friendship, East Liberty began to thrive as a commercial hub. More recently even, tech companies like Google and Duolingo have also invested in the area, bringing offices to the neighborhood. Many criticisms of gentrification have arose from these neighborhood redevelopments in East Liberty, pointing to the many longtime residents that were displaced over the years. City planners included variations of mixed-income residential projects, which were aimed at mitigating some of those concerns. This next section of the video, I decided to call Reaching the Boundaries, because that's exactly what we're going to be doing with this small residential development on the eastern edge of the neighborhood. This is my planned edge of the map, and the furthest that I plan to build out to the east. I'm pretty satisfied with the amount of city that I was able to build in this recreation project. However, because I'm both reaching the limits of the game, as well as the limits of my own computer, I have decided to cut things off at this point to start focusing on the next stage of the project, revitalization. Of course, I still have a few neighborhoods to complete first, and I plan to release about 3 more episodes to complete the recreation of the city. You can expect to see an episode covering the neighborhoods of Shadyside and Oakland coming soon, and one final episode to wrap up everything else in the city. I'll also release a city tour video here on YouTube and the final save file on Patreon once the city is fully completed. I'm really excited to start making some changes and improvements to the city, and I hope you enjoy the change of content coming soon. Episodes should come more frequently and be more bite-sized once the city is complete, as I'll be able to focus in on specific projects and ideas instead of trying to replicate entire neighborhoods. If you're interested in following along with the project, make sure to subscribe as those episodes will be coming out soon. To wrap up today's episode, I'm finishing up one more shopping plaza at the edge of East Liberty and close to the Bakery Square developments. This sea of surface parking is actually the site of the former East Liberty train station, which, depending on how you look at it, is either a fun fact or a not so fun fact. But either way, I just want to give a big thank you if you've watched the entire video so far. I really do appreciate the support, and the number one thing you can do to support the channel is to watch the episodes to the end. So if you made it so far, thank you. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing for more content like this. I also want to give a big thank you to my supporters on Patreon for helping make this project possible. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thank you once again for watching. This has been City Skylines, Pittsburgh.